button at the bottom here for you. So we can open Resource Wrangler, and previous node graphs will appear, but I want to make a new board. I'm going to call this Biome Demo. So that's, you can see it's here, Biome Demo. Let's just, we don't need the view at the moment, so we'll just embiggen this. We can start making some nodes. Let's start with the output texture, perhaps. So what I've got here is if you press right button, you'd get a list of all the resources that, you know, basically the system supports, or any custom ones that you may write. I've written a bunch of these over, you know, while I was developing it, and I did these image nodes to test it out. So let's pop a text. Yeah, let's start on the left-hand side. Yeah, let's make a gradient. Gradient. Over here. Put it over there. As soon as you make a wrong button. As soon as you make a node like this, right? It's gonna save it into your file system in a thing called the automate resources. You can change that in the settings. You go to project settings, scroll down here to Resource Wrangler, and then you can change the path where it's going to put things. And I'll just open Automate, go into Resources over here, and you can see the gradient that we just made is being saved right there. All right, so this is a gradient. That's charming and everything. Let's mess with the color on the side here a bit. Let's make it. Let's add some noise. Fast noise light. Here we go. Bit of noise. Let's make it more pixely like that. You can also see fast noise has appeared right here in the list of resources. I wonder if I shouldn't do. There we go. Resources, and then I'll make them big. All right, so you can see here's the gradient, here's the fast noise. Wonderful previews, Godot. Brilliant. Okay. So, what does a gradient plug into? It plugs into a gradient. Well, it can plug into anything you want. So the thing with Resource Wrangler is when you drag something out like this, honestly, it doesn't know what on earth you want to drop it into. So it just offers you some default options. So really, you've got to work kind of from right to left. You've got to know what you want. So in this case, let's say we want to put that into a gradient texture 2D. So let's pop that in here. Now the gradient texture 2D, as you can see, has also been saved here as a resource. Let's make it. Well, that's fine. We're happy with that. Let's mix some of this stuff together. Oh, just another example. If you were to delete this node, right? It doesn't delete the resource. It just deletes the node. You can see inside. Wrong button. You can see inside here. If I zoom in, see there's still a gradient resource inside here. If I choose this and I go into the inspector, you can see there's still a gradient resource. So just deleting the node doesn't delete the resource, right? And if you want to bring the node back, you can just drop it out again and it'll redraw it. All right. Let's see. Let's mix these together. So let's choose a mix node. This is a custom node I wrote. I'll just show you some tricks with that. Let's just smaller. Right. So if I choose, you can see up the top here, this is node details, which opens a little extra stuff where you can write some comments, and you can see, you know, this is in the automate directory, and it gives you a node ID of this actual node, and it gives you the resource that this node is backed by. Resource 9223, like yada yada yada, ends in this number. And this is the number of references that Godot internally has to this resource. Why 4? I don't know. Maybe it's 1 here, 2 here, 3 down there somewhere. Yeah. Anyway, that's information. If you go to the documentation, oops, maybe that's not that. Yeah. If you press the doc button, it should open up the documentation for the code that I wrote for this fella. If you press this little button over here, it'll show in the file system where, let's try this shift F. No, I always press the wrong button, shift F now. It shows you that file is in the file system. And well, let's just bring that back, clear it, go away. All right. So what else? This button here will open the actual source code for this resource, which might be worth going through. And we'll just embiggen it a bit. Goes the Wrangler. So it's a tool, so you have to have tool at the top. I'm pointing it at an icon. It's nice about icons is you can use relative directories. So from where the code is, it's finding its icon 1 up, and so forth. I've given it a class name here, RW_text. RW is my little namespace for Resource Wrangler. Text is for texture mix. It extends this base class, which does some basic stuff. Here's actually the help documentation that you saw earlier. This is a static function that lets you create some sort of, gives you control over the node. For example, it'll display the word mix on the screen and it'll put it in the category of image nodes. So if I come back over here, we scroll and here's the word mix. And if I right click and just clear that, you can see there's a category here called image nodes. And it puts mix inside that. So that's what the metadata helps you with. Then it's just normal exports. You're exporting the texture 1 as a resource, texture 2 as a resource, and a factor as a resource. So the node represents it like this. There's 3 ports, texture 1, 2, and 3, the factor. Then there's that's it. It's just one function here called create image, which Resource Wrangler knows to call under the hood. And you do what you want, really. You know, like in this case, what I'm saying is as long as there's texture 1 and 2, get an actual image out of the texture. If those are kosher, then, you know, convert them. You can do what you want here, but convert them to some, you know, RGB 8. If that all worked out, then, you know, get the size, maybe crop one from the size of the biggest one to the smallest one, or whatever. If there's a factor, you have to use a weight because sometimes the factor might actually be a noise texture. A noise always wants you to wait for it. And let's see. Now look, I'm going through the Y values of an image and the X values of the image, and I'm using get pixel. And you know, depending on whether the factor is a noise texture or just a direct, some other kind of noise, I don't know, forget this code a little. But anyway, you get the factor color and you get the out color, and you do some math, and you set the colors here, and then you set the pixel and you return a new image. So it's pretty flexible, really. You can make it do what you want. You can write your own resources, obviously. How do I smallify this? Let's go back to the node. Alright, so that's my mix node. Let's see. Let's pop U in here. Nothing appears because both of these have to be valid. So let's put the factor. There we go. How about that? See, look. So this is showing you 64 by 64 over here, because we made the gradient 64 by 64. I'm going to keep these things small for now. I don't want to waste a bunch of hard drive space. All right. So we've now mixed the gradient with that noise texture. Let's create another noise and we'll do a similar sort of thing, right? You can grab a bunch of nodes right click on them and say duplicate unique. I'm glad that worked. Well, it should be selected. That's a bug. See, more bugs. Now we'll have a whole bunch more stuff over here. So this one, I don't know, let's make the gradient go the other way. And let's make it go red. And let's make this a cellular noise and make it different. So I'll pop you in there, and I'll pop you in there, and I'll pop you in there. That's very subtle, isn't it? Jeez. Maybe we want something a little more. So you can see it changing live over here, which is fairly useful, I guess. Well, there's something or other. Actually, let's make this one sort of green, sort of biological color. That's a very biological. Actually, I wonder if I shouldn't. What if we do that? Make it more green over there. This one, super green. Make this one kind of super weird. Well, that's cool. All right, there we go. Let me just save that. Oh, it's complaining that there's no scene. We haven't got an actual scene yet, but it doesn't matter. All right, now let's try and mix these two images together and see what happens. But first of all, I'd like to mess with their brightness and contrast and what have you. So if we right click, we look inside image nodes, and let me just zoom in. You see here's a BCS. This is brightness, contrast, saturation. So double click him, move him up here, pop him in there. And then if you click on that node now has some stuff we can mess with. So let's just see what happens if I make the contrast, say 10. Yeah. Sometimes it doesn't, I don't know why it's not immediately updating. That's a bit harsh. Let's try 8. Oh boy. 2? Okay, this is pretty subtle. Okay, that's nice. Let's, if I press Control D, yeah, it just makes a unique duplicate. So let's do the same to this fellow over here. All right, so now we've got some punchy textures, right? Let's see if we add these two together into a mixture of some kind. See what happens. So let's just duplicate one of these, pop it over here, mix you and you together. Well, that's underwhelming. Well, we probably want to control it with a bit of a factor, right? So let's make another noise. I'm going to duplicate this noise, bring it over here. Let's mess with it. Let's just do that. So pop it into the factor. So now we're getting a different mix according to this texture here. I don't know if I'm a fan, though. Needs more. Let's just change the size. Let's just move it up a bit so we can watch what's happening. Yeah, that's not terrible. We've got a bit of both now, right? Right. Another thing you could do is you can collapse things to save a bit of space. So, we can collapse stuff like that. So here we've got a bit of a mix going on. But let's say I don't want the square shape. Let's say I want something nice and round. So why don't we just add another gradient texture? Oh, you can drag out from the left-hand side because it knows the type is a gradient. So it's just going to make a gradient straight away. The gradient texture over here, I can change the fill to radial. And then you can plop it in the middle like that. Is it going to snap? Come on, snap. Here we go. And let's mess with the gradient. Go wrong way. Zip, 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 zip. All right, well, there's something, I suppose. Maybe bring it in a bit. Yeah. Okay. Now, what we want to do, I think, is let's just mix it again. Let's mix it again. All right, we're going to duplicate you, pop you over here. This is going to be the factor. This is going to be one of them that we're going to mix, right? But who's the other one, right? Who's the other one we want to mix? Well, maybe just a transparent color, right? So let's just look for a color. Here we go, texture color. Bring you up here, make you fully transparent. Boy, that worked like a bomb. Oh, you know, it tends to be funny when it's not, yeah, when the pixels are just one by one, it's a bit weird. But either way, I think it's still actually transparent if you go in here, right? If you made this pixel like 2 by 2 or something, you can see it goes transparent. So there we go. So now we're mixing with a circle. So where it's black, the top one shows through, and where it's white, the bottom one shows through. So that's why you get, that's where it's black, right? We're getting this one coming in here. So this is black, this is 0, and this is 1, right? So where it's white here, we're getting this fella. Right? And where it's yellow, we're getting this fella. So that's kind of what the factors are doing. All right, and there's our final biome mixture between these colors. Perhaps we want another BCS on this. Let's try BCS. Let's punch that a little bit, right? Make the contrast 2. Saturation 5. Ooh, wow, that's wild. You can go to town. At this point, all of these things are actually saved as resource files over here. And none of them are particularly huge. For example, if I opened in a file manager that folder, hello, Ree. Oh, am I recording? Oh, I am. So if we just select all of these, you'll see it's all of 5 kilobytes. That, you know, they're just T-res files at this point. They're easy peasy. If you wanted to save the output of this to an actual, almost a PNG, you can bake it. I have a bake node for that. So you pop that in there, and now this is actually going to be saved as a baked texture. There's the bake over there. We bounce back to my, here he is. You can see he's 17 kilobytes. So that's the basics of a biome. So now you've got a biome. So, you might be asking, how on earth do you use this thing, right? Make a new scene, 2D scene, and let's add a, I don't know, sprite. Or, yeah, sprites are good, aren't they? Sprite 2D, you can tell I don't do 2D very much. And here's a texture slot over here. And so what we want is we want this texture in that slot. But when you select this fellow, he pops up over here. And when you select that fellow, he pops up over here. So what I've got is a thing whereas when you got them both in sight, you hold shift down and you start dragging this noodle, and it actually drags the resource, and you can drop it in there. And here we go. There's that resource plugged into the resource, the texture slot of a sprite. And the bake also lets you make MIP maps and normalize MIP maps. All right, save it. Oh, this is the main scene, so that's what we call it, main scene. I think that's it for my demo for now. That's the basic idea of Resource Wrangler, really. And all of these things here, you can look at the code for each of them. They all have a similar flow to them. You know, they have a class name. They extend something useful. They have this metadata piece. They have various resources. Only the things that are resources will become ports, right? The things that are ints and floats and other things don't become ports. And there's this create image thing again. In this case, you can see I'm calling the built-in function adjust BCS, which is taking these values and outputs a new image. Not too shabby. Okay, that's my tutorial, I hope. What the hell, it recorded.